Oh, hi there. I didn't see you. Today, we'll be reading Playing Santa, written and illustrated by Hayley Vanderpool. If we whisper real quiet, I think you can hear it. All the children are sleeping and dreaming Christmas spirit. If we're even more quiet and perhaps close your eyes, I can take you to a house that, to my surprise, the whole family is awake and snuggle up with a story of a tale of a nutcracker and his triumphant glory. In a town, on a street, in a house filled with decoration, I'll open the door to this family magical Christmas Eve celebration. The end, Mama read as she closed up this year's Christmas Eve story. She read a new one every year to her wide-eyed but sleepy children. They snacked on cheese and crackers and full bowls of Papa's homemade chicken noodle soup. As Mama put the book into a little rack by the fireplace, the children began to fidget. Next came the tradition they thought about for weeks leading up to Christmas Eve. They crawled under the tree, knocking and bumping around all the meticulously placed ornaments. It was an odd-looking tree, wrapped up in garland as a tree should be, but something about it didn't seem quite right. That whoever designed it seemed rather uptight. Every identical ornament was in a specific place, and in between each there was an abundance of space, which seemed rather odd because on the back you will see the most beautiful ones crowding the tree. All of them special in their own imperfect way, stacked up on branches, and I just have to say, the designer of this tree sure had a vision. It never could stop the little scavenger's mission. They crawled under the tree, knocking and bumping around the meticulously placed ornaments, looking for the one present they each got to open tonight. Mama and Papa stood back with glistening eyes, looking at the magic that surrounded them. "You only get one," Mama said as she snapped out of it. They each picked a present and nestled into their usual unwrapping spots in the room. They took their time, fully aware they needed to make this one last. "Those are neat," Papa said. Everyone seemed more than satisfied with their Christmas Eve teaser. They all bounced to the kitchen for what seemed to be yet another tradition. Mama opened a frosted container of cookies and poured a glass of milk for each one of them. As they stood around, sucking milk out of their saturated cookies, Papa pulled out a Santa tray and placed cookies, a glass of eggnog, and 9 carrot sticks on it, not forgetting a single reindeer. Bedtime was next, and these children knew it. They stalled and they smiled, but Mama and Papa saw through it. The traditions were over except for a long night's sleep, while You Shoot Your Eye Out played on repeat. And out like a light the children were too, but Mama and Papa had much work to do. They crept back downstairs without making a sound, but smiling and almost as giddy as their children had been. When they got into the kitchen, something most peculiar happened. They pulled out gold and silver wrapping paper, 2x4s, bags of glitter, and other misfit items. Through all of the noise, their oldest awoke, and she peered through a crack in her door. She took a hushed step and peeked around this corner, shaking with excitement to be the only kid to actually see Santa. Excitement turned to disappointment as she peered down the hall, expecting to see Santa when it wasn't Santa at all. Just her silly parents awake on Christmas Eve, but then she saw things that she couldn't believe. She stood there and stood there and stood there in shock, and with tears in her eyes, she looked at the clock. Santa should be here, but instead he was not, so why were her parents filling this spot? She snuck down the stairs to find Mama and Papa snacking on the cookies and drinking the eggnog that they had left for Santa. They laughed and they smiled with each bite that wasn't theirs. Mama and Papa moved to the kitchen table with the gold and silver wrapping paper lay. And might I just say, with the greatest admiration to have never seen a pile of presents with higher elevation. Mama and Papa took on this mountain with the beautiful paper and labeled each of them from Santa, Mrs. Claus, or the elves. She stood there in disbelief as her parents forged the North Pole's identity. Papa then took the carrots and the 2x4s all wrapped up in this big brown snowsuit and went to the front yard. She ran back upstairs so she could not see out her bedroom window, and there she saw Papa running the boards on either side through the snow to resemble sleigh tracks. She looked closer to see Papa chewing on the reindeer's carrots and spitting out little nibbles in the yard. Papa clicked his boots clean and headed back into the house. She crept back to her open door to see just what else her parents had up their sleeves. She looked down the stairs, this time more disappointed than last, knowing for sure that Santa had never come in the past. She wondered if her brother had any clue, then thought again that she's probably one of the few. And with a slunk on her shoulder, she crawled back in bed, squishing any sugar plums that dared dance in her head. Then down in the kitchen, the noises had stopped, but the stairway, the noises had not. Mama and Papa snuck in as if no one knew their secret. She pretended to sleep as they tiptoed to her brother's bed. A few noises later, and they were out of the room. On top of him lay a cozy blanket adorned with his favorite dinosaurs. Next to the bed and out the doorway she noticed the glittered boot tracks, the kind that Santa always used to leave behind. It seemed as though she couldn't take any more of the night, so she curled up in bed and slept until Christmas morning. And so that ends their Christmas Eve, with the oldest one not knowing what to believe. And at this point in the story, I just have to say that no children's Christmas Eve should ever happen this way. But it's Christmas now, and I think I can feel it, another big dose of much-needed Christmas spirit. The children awoke early and anxious, sat on their beds. The unveiling of the tree is one of the biggest traditions, to finally see after all this time just how good they were that year. The scent of fresh cinnamon rolls filled the air as Mama and Papa called their children to the living room. "Are you ready?" Papa called. "Ready," the little one called back. They stumbled down the stairs to see the most beautiful tree they ever saw. Gold and silver presents of all shapes and sizes cascaded from the tree. The little one jumped to his unwrapping spot and begged if he could play Santa this year and pass out the presents. "I think it's your sister's turn to play Santa. What do you say?" They turned to their daughter, who was unusually quiet for it being her favorite day of the year. She slumped in her shoulders yet again, gave a painful smile, and walked away. It had finally hit her, this whole Christmas spiel. No North Pole, no reindeer, none of it's real. She felt like a you-know-who with Christmas taken away. If her brother would ask, what would she say? That everything they believed was kind of a lie? But then a small little twinkle caught her eye. The small little twinkle could change the day for the better. A distant, magical Christmas Day letter. She slowly picked up the letter so carefully as if she was going to break it. To Mama and Papa read the front in a delicate golden thread. It was closed up with a thick red wax seal. She knew this was no ordinary letter from no ordinary place. She plucked it, opened it, and it read, "Dear Mama and Papa, I offer my thanks for your help this year. You see, the rest of the world has lost holiday cheer. I knew in your house you could pick up my slack, so I could focus my time on the houses that lacked. All rhyming aside, I'd like you to notice how the work that you do has shaped your Christmas bonus. Because of every tradition you make for your children, because of every Christmas memory you create, they'll remember and love you more than you can ever imagine for it. When they're all grown up and have families of their own to share Christmas with, it will truly be special because you made it that way. Congratulations for making Christmas come alive in your house when the rest of the world needed that extra dose from yours truly. I think we made this a Christmas to remember. Ho ho hopefully. Sincerely, Santa Claus." A sparkle in her eye lit up like a Christmas tree as she realized it all. Her Mama and Papa could make magic, the special kind, and Santa could see it all the way from the North Pole. One year without him, what could possibly go wrong? As she closed the letters and wiped the tears from her eyes, she rejoined the family and said, "Yeah, I can play Santa this time."